Hello everyone, Hammad here. Welcome to my channel, Cloud with Hammad, DIY Cloud Learning to Inspire. For today in our cloud series with Azure, I will be reviewing Azure Storage Services, in which I will create a storage account. We'll discuss a little bit of how to create virtual networks, firewalls, access key, and shared access key. We'll also discuss a little bit about Storage Explorer, authentication, and then different type of tiers, and then replication. In the end, I'll actually show you a demo how to host a static website on Azure Storage Blob. But before we do that, if you're new to my channel, please subscribe, like, and share with friends. I would really appreciate it. Now, without further ado, let's go to our notes. Right, so what we'll do is we'll actually discuss a little bit about how to create a storage, and then while we create that storage, I'm going to show you how to create a virtual networks, and then you can also put that storage behind the firewall. Two ways to access storage is through access key and SAS, which is signature access, shared access signature, and then Storage Explorer, log analytics, a lot of those stuff. The plan is to create a storage account, discuss property of that storage account, and then we'll create a container, upload some videos and files. We'll expose those folders to public, and then some of them will be secure. We'll use a SAS, that is secure access signature or shared access signature, and then we'll view those files. And then second will be we'll create another blob, and we'll call them a static website. We'll also download Azure File Share tool, which is Azure Explorer, and then we'll use it in the local computer on my laptop, and then we'll basically try to authenticate that Azure file storage to Azure, and then we'll upload some folders, and then we'll expose the static website index file, and we'll run a website from there. Third part is basically while we are at it, what we'll do is we'll create a file share on the storage, and then we'll also create a VM separately on that on the same resource group. And then what we'll do is we'll use that file share, we'll connect to a VM to show you that how you can create a file share and use that storage account to a VM or any VM in the country, and then we'll delete the resource. So that will be a quick introduction and demo. Hope you really enjoyed this. I enjoyed while making this. Alright guys, let's talk about storage, especially how do you create them, and then how do you manage, how do you do data migration, how do you, the core concept, and basically a little bit about technical details on how do you create or work between the storage account. Now, as you can see, I'm already logged into Microsoft documentation website, and then you have, this is where you would get to it. You can do Google and do storage, and it will bring you up here. A little bit about concept, and then type of storage, how do you create them, learn about data redundancy, and then how do you migrate data to Azure storage. And then this whole page has tons of information. I would say a lot of valuable information, so I must encourage you guys to come up here. Let's click on this for a second here. So this is basically introduction to core Azure storage. It tells you that, hey, what's the durability, and then how do you secure them, how do you scale them, how do you manage and access. And then there are a couple of core storage services, blob, file, queue, disk, and table. We'll talk about it in a bit here. And then over here it gives you an example of what type of situation you have, and what would the recommendation would be of what type of Azure storage you would use, whether it's file, blob, disk, or queue. All right, so now let's quickly go back to, so I'm already logged into my Azure portal. Before we do that, I mean, as you all know, storage is basically a key service for any cloud technology, not just Azure. So I would say it is critical, just like it is a critical service, I might say. And then just like virtual machine or virtual networks or database, that also sometimes gets stored in Azure table, depends on what kind of service you're using. The purpose of storage would be basically to store data on your hard drive, backup file or database file, or even like videos, pictures into your storage account. And then also, how do you store data into your virtual machine backend, just like the small hard drive attached to it? Now, there are a lot of other services in Azure that need storage account for logging in. I know that there's Data Lake and then Hadoop and all the other services you can use to connect with storage so that you can have your data saved in it. By default, virtual machines runs on managed storage. And then, I would say you can attach or detach data, and that also there's a hard drive to it, and we'll talk about it in a bit. So how do I get to it? Obviously, you can see I'm logged into Azure. You can type in here on your search storage, and then you can have a storage account, or you can just click on to create resource, and then that resource will bring you to this page where you would just come up here at the bottom. This says storage account. You can hit storage account, and this is where you would click on to get to your landing page. And these are the 5 tabs: basic, advanced, networking, data protection, review, and tag. Basic tells you like what kind of services, what's the name, region, performance. We'll talk about it in a second here. And then advanced also tells you what kind of security you want to have, whether it's going to be enabled for public access, for Blob, and then what kind of tier is it, hot and cold, or Azure file, just like infrequent access or standard for AWS S3. And then networking, pretty much create your own network or open for entire public, or private endpoint for nobody to see, and depends on what kind of preference you have. Protection, you can just have soft delete or Blob. And so let's quickly talk about how we would create a storage account. Again, we log in here, and then you would select your subscription, whatever subscription you have. I'm going to just use my Microsoft Development Network Platform subscription, and then I would resource group. If you don't have a resource group, I would create a resource group. So I would say storage for Hammad, and then click OK. This is a resource group you just gonna create. And then if you need to create a legacy store account, type here, but we don't. So, and the name of the storage, Hammad. And then East US region. So this is very important because believe it or not, the cost actually depends on which region you are saving the file. So I would say, let's say that if you are in East US and I'm in West US, so if I do a storage account in East US, then the data transfer rate would cost me money. So this is the prime example where I would just store the data where you would basically where your services are, where your users are, where your application is. And then what I would say that generally this also is global, I would say. So the storage container name, just the one that I just said, is to Hammad, storage for Hammad, is global. It's unique. So you would not, if I choose this, and if I which I did, I think if I do this, this is where I would be able to use this name, because nobody has taken this name. So it is a unique global naming convention. And then I would say so this is where also I think you would just have to have. So if you storage for Hammad, this is also a URL that you're going to use, and this can be used for programmatic access, or even using your API, or if you want to use your SDK. So you will use storage for Hammad.blob or azure.com. I'll show you in a second. Now, as mentioned, that this location does matter. Basically, I say generally you want to store your account close to where you are. As I mentioned, that since I'm in on West US, any location where your application is or user that is using your account, you should use that. Now, so if your storage account is going to be for a website, used for a website, and it's in the same region as where your account is, like let's say if you have it on West US, like if I have a storage account on West US and I created an account, a storage account in East US, and my application is it's on somewhere else, so what's going to happen is somewhere else means like East US, you will have communication lags, and latency will be one of the major issue, where once you try to access your customer try to access the website, it probably is going from east to west to get the data. So I think this is one of the reason I would say try to get your storage account close to where your services are being offered. And then obviously there are different regions that you want to save. Like simple bottom line is everybody wants to save money, so you want to make sure that your application is or your storage account is at the location where your customers are, so that you don't get cost incurred for latency as well as data. And cost actually, different storage account in different regions are different. So if you put it in East US, you're paying one price per tier gigabyte, but if you are in like somewhere in Asia or Australia, it's going to be totally different. And then it depends on what region you are. It's going to be how the data is being saved as well as its cost. Okay, so the next decision is I'm going to try to use West US, which is where I am. And then I will also go back to redundancy here, and you will see what I'm talking about here. So, and then, performance, basically, standard recommendation for most scenario, general purpose V2 account, or premium situation where you want to use like a quick in and out SSD. So I would say that, if you want to choose performance is pretty straightforward. I mean, if you want to choose premium level, performance for a storage account is basically you choosing what we call it as an SSD, which is solid state drive, and the flash disk for performance. It's a lot quicker and easy to read and write. It's just you submit, and it's like I said, it's basically for requiring low latency. But if let's say if we choose premium, I click on here, and then you would see different type of options I have to select from, and then I would say Blob, best and high rate transaction, file share, enterprise and high performance application, best for page blob for random and read write access. So, and then let's quickly talk about standard. So let's say if I want to, obviously when you choose standard, it's pretty standard, like selection. Performance is also there, but it's more like magnetic tape drives or magnetic hard drives. I'm going to leave it like this for standard. Let's say also if hard drive performance is very important for you, I would choose premium. And let's say most of the people use V2 account. It is very flexible, and storage. I would say latest general V1 has updated to V2, so now most of the people are using V2. Okay, so now another thing is redundancy, like how the data is being replicated across different regions. Right now, it says as locally redundant, as you can see. So I used Vast US, and it gives me these two options of application locally or redundant storage or geo-redundant storage. Locally redundant keep storage will keep your 3 copies of file in the same data center, and you can see them. You know, it will. Store hard data in different hard drive. Also, if one of the hard drive goes bad, Azure would be able to create another file, a backup, because it got 2 other copies in the same data center. And then there's another one that's called zone redundant storage, which is distributed across multiple data centers in the same region, but it's not here. I will show you where that shows up here. And then I would say that same region would geo-redundant would basically have 6 copies of your file across 2 data centers. That is more like a higher available data architecture. And let's say that if you do, local redundant, what's going to happen is if one of the data center goes down, then West US would have a problem with the outage or some sort of internet issue, and it will be down for a couple of hours. You would basically not be able to do anything. But if you have a geo-redundant storage, so I think that would actually be available for you to access it from anywhere. As I mentioned, that locally you are done. You don't have anything to do. You're just going to wait for outage to be over, and then you got everything coming back up. Now, let me show you one more thing. So if I click on this and go back to East US, now you'll see that there are more options for me to check from, that is the local redundant, ILRS, geo-redundant, and then zone redundant and geo-zone redundant storage. So all the details are there. I don't want to read it out for you, but there are some documentation here. I would say geo-redundant. There is another one that is missing here. I can see that there's a read access storage as well is not there, but Microsoft is updating every day, so there must be some changes. Then access tier. Let's keep it for. Actually, let's keep it to geo-redundant. Let's move it here, and then there is another. You can uncheck this and then go next, and then let's quickly check on advanced here. And then in advanced you would look at the security. As you can see, there are more advanced decision that you can do using SSL up here. And then also TLS, what kind of, I would say, if there's some reason that you want to access your storage account through non-secure method, you can just select up here. On the advanced tab, you can see that there are more decisions that you can make. All the TLS version, the storage account through access key, I'm going to leave it on. Secure transfer, I selected on, and then infrastructure encryption, I don't want to do that. Maybe we can do in security differently. We want to protect the data. You want to do a public, enable Blob public access. So when you select it, it doesn't mean that you are publicly exposed to your data to the internet. It's just that you have an option to do that, to get that set up. And then there is SAS keys token that you can use to access the data. And then I would say this is also a blob storage network file share v3. You want to do file share on this. Well, access tier is basically where we would want to use hot or cold. So by one, like you can see, one is hot, frequently accessed data, day-to-day usage, and then cool is infrequently accessed data, and backup situation. So basically, hot is a default. I mean, for now, it's showing up as default, and basically it means that you're going to be charged at a certain amount of storage, and like the amount of accessing those files, and then storage accounts are across two accesses, that is like the cold tier, and so save your money. I would say if you want to like less cost effective, I would just use cool, which is infrequently accessed data. It is half the cost of the storage, and but you know it is the price to access is a little higher. We'll talk about prices as well. So I would also look at like, you know, how do you back up your file? How do you zip file? What's the historical data on the file? You're saving money on the storage for files that you don't access frequently. So I think Cool would be the right choice. Like, you know, you over here you can set as a default that, hey, in your storage account, when you create a like storage, either blob or table, you will select you know, like hot or cold. This will be your default selection, and then you know you can also use this through programmatically, individually file basis. But I think this applies to the entire, you know, entire storage account as a default. And then this enable large file is basically if you have any reason to like if you enable this, you can basically store 100 terabyte size file, hundreds of terabytes file size in this storage account. Okay, and then also soft delete option. I think I saw it somewhere, but we'll talk about it in a second here, because that will be also important in protection. So in the data protection or recovery, so you can enable in recovery protection, you know, enable point in time restore container, all the details about point in time, and then soft delete if it's enabled, so it will retain the data for 7 days. What soft delete does is if you delete a file and you have soft delete checked, then you can go back 7 days, up till 7 days, and restore that file. You can change it to 30 days, I think, maximum. You know, you can do more if you want to, but I think this is where you would select so that you can restore your data. Even you can do soft delete on your containers as well for 7 days. Again, let's quickly talk about networking. I think networking is very important to talk about. In networking, we can create our own like network. When you create a storage, it will ask you to either public endpoint to all networks. That means that you can have an endpoint anyone can connect with security SAS token or whatever, or even, you know, you have your own network that you want to deploy your storage account through a public endpoint, and you can select your own network here, which is what we're going to do in a second here. So, you know, I would also say that, you know, the storage account is accessible in this option from anywhere in the world. You do need control and access key to access that storage account. It is not open to public, but you know, the email, the base, when you get here, and then you use this. This is your URL for your like storage account. And then basically the name that you choose would be your URL for your storage account, and you can access it through programmatically, or you can use, unless this is behind firewall or whatever it is. And then I would say public endpoint that lives on a virtual network or a private endpoint, just like this one. if you choose public endpoint for select network, then we're going to have to choose a virtual network, which is, in this case, I don't think we created one. So we're just going to create one virtual network in a second here. And then, you just need to make sure whatever region it is. I'm going to see if I can create a virtual network. And then if I click on this, it will open up this window. Since this is not a VNet tutorial, I'm just going to go through address range and subnet, just going to choose default on all of them, and I would click OK. And then you can make sure you have site and private endpoint is also there. Network routing, I would just keep it as Microsoft network routing. This is a preferred, and I think it's more like a quickly possible to access the source. Again, I would go back to data protection, tracking of the data, blob storage, and then click tag. You can give name, whatever tag you want to give name, review and create. Once you hit review and create, this validation going to happen. It passed. So the next step would be to create the storage. Let's create one. So you can see the deployment is happening, and then it's going to go ahead and start processing the deployment operations. So if I click on it, it tells you that this is the operation ID, its provisioning is create, running, and then what are the virtual network ID, and then also it's going to start showing up here as they created a storage name for now, and then there's a network that was created. So this is going to take at least a good 5 or 10 minutes. So I'm going to pause the video and then I will come back. All right, guys, so we have created the resources. So we will go here and hit go to resource. This is the page where we would see all the detail about the account that we just created. This is the name of the storage account, location, primary location, and the secondary location, what subscription it is, what type of version, what is the replication mode, is it standard hot. We already talked about these things. And then these are the multiple tabs here to give us access to the most frequent requested. Means that under property, let's say which is basically the first tab, we can see all the features that we set when we created the storage account, and then if I scroll down further, you can see all the blob storage files here, queue, and this is where you would select all the information. So if it's like a file share, you would just click here and you go into the file share, and then blob share. Of course, you need to go inside and create folders, which we will show you in a second. And then under monitoring tab, we can see that there are some graphs here. Since this is a new account, this is new, just created, so there's not much information here, but we can create graph and see how much data is leaving. And then this is basically egress, which is how much data is coming into storage account, that is ingress actually, and then egress is how much is data going outside the Azure. And then this is latency. Of course, the latency is amount of is in milliseconds. It takes access to file, like in millisecond it takes access to file, the request coming in it. And this is the request baked down. And then further detail, you can talk about monitoring and everything. So let's go to capabilities, and then this is where this is very interesting. We can upgrade, enhance, and we can upgrade our enhanced information, like data protection, static website, lifecycle management, content delivery. The static website is where you can store HTML access and JavaScript into your storage and use it as a web server. So there's no dynamic content to it, but you can store those static file and basically host here like the data protection. I'm gonna basically, if I get a chance, I will upload a code into this, and then we will try to enable a static website and go from there. And then Obviously, data protection is basically the same, where you would set up like basically enables how long file can be stored or soft delete, and then data lifecycle management, where you can move the data from hot or cold to archive depending on like the number of days that have passed. CDN, Azure Content Delivery Network. I think we have not talked about it a lot, but this is basically accessing your static file more quickly and pushes them out into more like endpoints or presence around the world. So you can, there's local client and access those, any local client have access to this CDN, and they can access the file very quickly. Like it's everyone, like let's say that you have data in East Coast and there is a content delivery network somewhere in the middle of it. People have to just go to content delivery network and download the file from there. And then custom domain, I think we already talked, we know already that we can create a DNS, set up like a domain, GoDaddy, and you can use that to access your storage account. Security actually is, I would say, Microsoft is just like Defender, Microsoft Defender. The Azure Defender is a little bit of more available to protect your file. It's like type of Windows Defender on your computer, but Azure Defender actually is enhancement to the threat or to your service. Let's go back to your storage and let's create a storage account. Let's create a storage folder. So once I get here, I would go first. Let's go with Blob. Once I hit Blob, and then I will create a container, and then I will give a name to the container, and then access, anonymous, private. I will show you in a second. If I set to private, nobody would be able to access besides the shared access key, and then Blob with through real access, and Blob only read access, and then container. So for now we'll just leave it like this. Over here you can select the encryption and scope of the encryption. For now we'll just create a folder, and then over here we're gonna click on this folder. And then once we click on this folder, this is the message that will come up. It's because the machine that I'm accessing is not an authorized machine to access this storage device. So even though we are logged in through our portal or through my machine, it says that the storage account firewall virtual setting may be blocking access storage. Try adding your client IP address. So this is my machine IP. What I'm going to do is I cannot see this, so I have to go back here. And then over here on the networking, I click here, and then firewall and virtual access, we selected network. So over here I need to define add client IP to address so that I can be whitelisted. So this is add IP range to allow access from internet on to your on-premise network. So if you are somewhere remote, you want to access your on-premise from your network, you would either add an IP address or a CIDR block. So I would click save, and then once it's saved, I will go up here. Now I will try to go to container, and we already have created this storage, and now you can see we got into it. So now the first thing we'll do is we will actually I want to talk to you about shared access key and access policy, and there's another access key. Let's go back here first. Here. Okay, actually let's upload a file first before we go over there, so that we can save some time. So I click on here to upload a file, and then select from upload to a blob. I would go to download, and I would just use this video, and I would upload. And now it says it's uploading. I'm just going to leave it like this. It tells you these are all the advanced feature. You can authenticate yourself through Azure AD, or you have an account key, which is what we're going to discuss, how to access this. And then this is a blob storage. It uploads VHD file as a blob, and then block size is 4 MB. This is hot, so it's a tier is hot. You can just, it's a little pricey, and you can create folders and upload folders. Anyways, I'm going to show you when we will be doing static website. Okay, so the file is uploaded. If I click onto this file, it's going to show you a URL that the file has been saved up here. I'm going to copy this, but what's going to happen is it will not open up for me. It tells you what tiers it is and information. So if I go up here and I would paste it, it would not, because it says request ID not found. There is a reason for those. I'm going to show you in a second here. Just give me a second. First, we're going to go to storage for Hammad, the first page, and then I want to discuss with you the access key. This is how you would access authenticate your application when making requests to Azure storage. Store your access key securely. So there's the name of the storage account, and then these are the keys, 2 keys that Microsoft provides, and then there, like if you click on this, will show up the keys. I'm going to open up this for you to see a little bit more further. This key is key 1 and key 2. This is basically the connection string we would use. It would create it by default to access the endpoints. There are two of them. For some reason, if one of them get compromised, you can always use the second one, and when you hit this, it would regenerate a new key, so you're good to go for using the access key. And then there's another way to access the storage is called a shared access signature, which is SAS, and this is where we would access a URL that grants restrict access to Azure storage resource. You can provide a shared access signature to the client who should not be trusted with the storage. So let's say that we'd already discussed that if somebody got access to the key, you can regenerate the code. The shared access key is also considered as SAS, that is shared access key. This allows you to delegate access to your other applications or individual without revealing your access key. You don't want to give them the key. You basically use shared access key to get them to connect to the storage account. And then to the blob storage, this is where you would say that allow service to blob storage, file storage, or queue, and even allow resources to services, container, or object, what kind of permission you need, read, write, delete, and then versioning. Over here at the bottom, you can also define time and date, how long this person needs access to, and then once that is done, it would just expire, and then they won't be able to access. Even you can whitelist the person with the IP address, or even I think with CIDR block as well. This right now is HTTPS protocol setup. I'm going to leave it the way the default is, and then obviously we can use SAS key. We can click 2 and hit regenerate. It will create a key for us. Okay, so enough this. Let me go back to our storage account. So we created file share blob, and then once we get here, we will click onto our storage, and then this is not opening. So for that, there are 2 ways. You can just click on this and use the access key to open it, or you can click up here, and then obviously you can click on this. It's not working. Click on to generate SAS token, and then obviously you can see you can use signing key as key 1 or key 2, or read write permission, and then everything. And then over here, just hit generate SAS token. It would create a SAS token as well as URL. So if I click on this one, I'm hoping this should work. Otherwise, I know where to change the IP to. So if I click here, you can see it did download. Let me download a file from this URL, and this is music. So if I hit download, it did download in my third-party software. So I'm just pull this here, and then I would click on open, and you can You see. So you can see that the store of video downloaded with the shared access key. So you can see the download happen. Okay, so enough with this. So this is how you would basically try to access your data into using the Blob to shared access key. All right, so the next thing what we would do is we will, let me show you one more thing. Let's upload a couple of more pictures. So let's go to pictures, and then say pictures. I would copy this and I would upload. So these are 4 files that got uploaded. And then again, if we want to open this, it will create file, which is definitely not going to work because they are not authenticated. So for that, what we're going to do is, so it's not loaded. So click on here, go back to, you can use this string to, you know, basically use the endpoint and go from there. So this is connection string. Okay, so let's go up here for a second and then go to one more thing I think we haven't shared yet. Container, file share, sorry, storage blob, and then click on this one. And then if you see up here, it says change access level. So if I select this one and hit change access level, it says private, no anonymous access. So no one can access. But if I change it to blob anonymous access, it should basically be able to access outside without the, I think before, so if I click here, and then you can see the picture is downloaded from the blob. So I can just change them without even generating the SAS token. We can like generate SAS token. That's a secure way if we want to make sure nobody accesses it. But let's say if I want to make sure that I can access from outside, just click on change access level and click on to blob storage, click OK, click on my picture, copy this, and then click on this and hit enter. It should open up the pictures for, this is basically Antelope Canyon in Page, Arizona, just for your knowledge. Anyways, go back here. Now, quickly, what we'll do is I'll also show you how to, there are 2 things that I want to show you. First, I want to show you how to run on dynamic, like a static website. So I would click on storage, and then I would create a container, and I would say static web, and I would say blob, and we can change this encryption if you need to. I would create it. I would go up here, and I think we already have talked about how to get to static content to the website. I mean, let me see if I can get you the link. So you can just click on, just go to this website, and then it gives you all the codes that you need. It's just like a sample codes that you can download from anywhere, like a type of thing, and upload it. So this is another one. Let's download this one here, and then I would click OK, and it's downloading at the back end. So what I'm going to do is go back here, and then what I'm going to push this here and hit download. Once I hit download, you should see these are the like content that I downloaded from the website. So I would right click here, and I would extract, and then it opened up this content. Let's go back here, and then I would upload. Actually, before I do that, let's go to this place and hit, if you go scroll down, and you would see this static website, which is what we showed you, and then we'll hit enable, and this is where the root document is for index. .html, and if there's any error document that is created, you can show the error document. For now, we don't have anything. I'll hit save, and then it created a static for this where we would have all the files in there. So I'm gonna go back here. And then I would also go to Blob. And then I would hit upload. Click here. Let's do one more thing before I do that. Actually, park this for a second. What I'm going to do is show you how to access. So park this for a second, and let's go to first let me show you how to do Storage Explorer. So if I click here on Storage Explorer, or even I go up here on the overview. The reason I'm saying that because I have to individually upload the file one by one in folders, so I rather use a thing called a Storage Explorer. This is basically a Storage Explorer you can download to your computer and run it off there and connect your storage, which I can show you as well. But for now, if you click here, it will open up there. But for now, we'll just click here and click on to Storage Explorer Preview. And this is how it would show up as file share. So if I click on this one, on container, you can see all the all my folders here. It tells you all the stuff, like what is the last modified and this and that. So I would upload. I would hit here, and let's go to download and use this one. Okay, so it downloaded 2 files. Another thing, let's do this. Let's actually do this. Let's click here, and I think my steps are a little bit back ahead. So I'll go ahead and hit here, and then download Azure Explorer. This is the tool that you can download in your computer, and it is basically will download. So this is it's downloading. I would click OK, and I would go through install, go through the process, accept. It's opening up on my other side of the monitor, so that's why I'm just pushing up here. Create next, next. And then installing the process. Almost there. All right, so we're gonna hit finish, and it will launch the Explorer. And then you can see it's just loading for the first time. For this, we just need to go back here while it loads. We are going to use our access key to authenticate ourselves. So it's loading. Alright, so now it's asking me to what kind of Azure resource you want to connect to. I would say storage account, and connection string key or SAS, shared access key URL, account name or key. Let's do account name or key. So we have account name, storage for account, and then key. So I would just copy this key here, and then I would click next, and I would say account name. I would paste it. Once I paid the account key, sorry, I'll remove this, and then hit here, and I would say storage for Hammad, and then hit Azure. Same thing. Use to connect to your account, click connect, and then once I hit connect, I would come back here, and you can see the storage for Hammad is already here, the blob container, which is what we had, and now we have the whole Windows Explorer type environment where you can just upload files and folders. The reason I stopped you here because now I can just actually upload the folders. You can upload folders or file. When we were doing it through other way, we were just able to upload the files. Now we can upload the files. So if I click here, it opens up here. So I would select this, keep asking me. So I would go to download, and where is it? Let's do detail, and then this one, we just use this. This is just file upload, so I'm just gonna make sure it's uploaded, and it's probably gonna be the same file. And then once we hit that, we'll upload folder. Click on folder. You have to keep drag from my other screen here, and then I would just use this at 1 by 1. Click upload. It says that already exists. Yes, we already did. So apply to all conflict and replace it. That's why. And then upload folders. So you can see that, you know, we had uploaded a folder asset. Now we're going to upload another folder that was images, like this, and then click upload, and you can see that, you know, these files are being uploaded. So if you, as you can see, the files are uploaded. You can see the same thing in our storage. So if I minimize this and go back to container, and then once we get to container, just go to your static page, and you can see all the files in here that we just uploaded from our Explorer. So this is all the folders. You can have shared access key, blah blah blah. And then let's go to our you can see the shared access key and everything. You can generate the key to securely access it. If I hit properties, I should be able to use this. So if I click here, copy this, and then click here, and it's giving me this error message. So if I go back here, and let's say if I want to click onto overview and index file, copy this here and go back here, and then hit enter. There you go, the website is up and running. So this is the website that we downloaded the code, this one, and then we uploaded to our storage website, static web page, and that's how we are running a static website. And then you also saw how we can you know, create like a storage account. Now so this is good. Now let's do one more thing quickly. I want to show you, I don't want to take too much time, because if it goes over 1 hour then the video is very long. So let's quickly create a file share. Let's go back here and then click on file share. So what we're going to do is we'll create this file share where we'll create a VM quickly. I'll create that on my own, and then what we'll do is we'll attach that file share into our VM, so that it's another thing that is very good to have. So click here on a file share, and then I would say storage for Hammad. I would just say 10 GB. And then transactional optimize. We don't have to worry about hot and cold. Create. So it created this file, and then, you know, it created the file. What I'm going to do is you can so if I hit connect, it will give me a string to use Windows or even a Linux machine to create. So we're going to use this command to create to connect to our Windows machine. But before we do that, we just need to make sure that we have a VM running. So let me quickly create a VM and then come back to you. So let me show you what I'm going to do next. let's say you have a VM that is running somewhere, wherever, and then you want to connect or have a file share, a storage account connected to all the VMs. You can all simply just click on virtual machine, add VM. This thing is slow. Again, the subscription resource group, we're going to just keep it storage for Hammad resource group so that I can delete that eventually. File share, that's the machine name. East US, this is where we're going to have this. A simple machine, test admin, and then password. I can set up anything. And then, you know, inbound RDP. And then if I look here, it says that you want to make sure that port 445 is open, so for us to access that file share. So we're going to go back here, and then we want to make sure that 445 is also, it's not here, so we're going to change it in our NSG later. Let me show you here. Click connect networking. We'll keep it simple. You can do standard HDD. We will talk about all those things when we are doing a VM. So now this is done. Click next. We would use the same VNet. We'll have the new IP address, basic 443. This is where we're going to change it. Like I said, in order for us to attach this mount, we will actually make sure that this port is open. Click node balancer, we don't need it. Management, we don't need it. We'll just remove some of the stuff from here. Advanced. Next. Review and create. And then running the final validation, and then hit create. So the deployment is in progress. We will just wait for it to deploy. Once that happens, what we'll do is we'll go back here, we'll copy this, and we'll go into our PowerShell for that machine, and then we will run this into that machine, and that's where we will, you can always give them a name, U or D or whatever you need, and then, you know, and even Linux and Mac OS. Let's do R drive or whatever you want to choose. Click OK. So connect. You can change the tier while it's happening. We'll copy this. Virtual machine is in progress. Don't save. Guys, so the VM is ready. I'm gonna log in and I'll be right back. Alright guys, so I'm logged into the virtual machine now. You can see the virtual machine storage for Hammad, file share, and then this is a public IP. It's loading up. So the first thing we're gonna do is minimize this, and we'll go back to our connect, and then we'll copy this. Again, this is how we came here. We got into file share, we created a file share, and then we got here. I would hit connect, and then you can give whatever name you need, UVTX, whatever, and then I will, now this is there, you can authenticate yourself through whatever storage account key and then directory, or you can actually use connect using storage account key appropriate for admin access. Active Directory is to differentiate file and folders per AD account. You can also use like AD VPN point-to-point site or AZ copy. So I'll copy this and I would go back here. It's loading. Click here, start. So I want to show you this here first while it's still loading. If I click on this, We don't have any other drive. There is a C drive, which is while we create the machine, and there is a temporary storage. There's nothing on the network. So I minimize this. Actually, let's close this and let's minimize this here. And I will click Start, and then I will click on PowerShell. And then I would paste this. Enter. Now it's going to connect to that storage account. And its credential access successfully. OK. X drive has been mounted for 10 GB. So if I minimize this, and I will click here, and now you can see that we have a drive mounted into our X drive or our Y drive, whatever we created. So let's say if I want to, you can move the file into, let's go back here for a second, minimize this, and then upload a file, same file. We'll copy this, and we would go back to download. You can use the same thing, upload, and it is uploaded. You can see the file is uploaded. So if I go back here, this should definitely show up with this file here. So you can see this file is already in your VM, already set up there. One more thing that I want to see. So you can see this is how you would add your storage file share from your storage blob to your VM, and it can be used for many other machines at the same time. It's just like a file share. Let's go back one more place, and then one more thing. Let's go here for a second and see if I have file share here. Yeah, so we do have a file share here. So if I click on here, this should definitely show up the file here. Yeah, there you go. The file is on our A drive. So again, let's go back here for a second, copy this, and let's upload a couple of the files. So if I minimize, if I do this here and go to my folder and download, and I would go to pictures. Let's do pictures. Copy this, and I would paste. You can have 4 files in there, and then you can do Azure Site like you can do in the backup, which I think I already have made a video, but I can show you later on. So if I refresh this, so go back to my static web and then go back here, I am gonna see all these files in here. So that's how you would basically create a file share, and that's about it for today's lab. Alright guys, so hope you enjoyed a quick demonstration on Microsoft Azure Storage. We quickly briefly discussed about storage blob and file share, and then I showed you how the static website works, and then also a couple of, so this had a lot of stuff, but I'm glad that it went through really fine without any glitches. So I will see you guys next time.